to God.
Justice for all.
My apologies.
It happens, okay. Recognition of, I did put you on the spot right off that. Recognition of visitors and public comment on agenda items.
Real quick, your names?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm Elaine Lavington.
I'm Tracy Sullivan.
Steve Henderson.
And Steve is a board member at Mercer Public Schools.
Welcome.
Hello, Steve.
Hello.
Didn't say hi.
Any adjustments to the agenda?
None tonight.
Okay, awards, recognition, and correspondence. Wow, presentations to the board.
So tonight, Julie Hurley is going to be sharing a video that the Douglas County Child Care Coalition developed.
Right. So as a reminder, the Child Care Coalition has been coordinated through the Douglas ESD since 2020. And we have 3 work groups who have been focusing on supporting child care businesses and their infrastructure to grow. Another focus has been around awareness about the importance of childcare to our whole economy and community, and then really being a policy and advocate to decision makers around the program. So we wanted to share the video we put together with McFarland Productions, and it is really a focus on creating awareness across the community about the impact of childcare and how fundamental it is. And we're excited that the video has been shared with the governor's office. So we have been moving it across the state wherever we can. And we are currently posting it alongside a campaign we have with United Way, looking for community investments that'll go right back to childcare providers in Douglas County. So with that, we can push play.
Is a community that loves growing families and children. Even the most thriving communities face challenges that require a collective action.
The demand for quality childcare in Douglas County far outpaces the space available with quality childcare providers. This scarce resource can force parents to make difficult choices, often leaving the workforce or relocating, creating a devastating ripple effect on our community.
It hinders employment, businesses, workforce, and community growth.
In truth, it's crippling our economy. As a community at a crossroad, we cannot stand idle. Together, we can find solutions for quality, affordable childcare.
In Douglas County, we're in a child care deficit. We do not have enough caretakers for our future generations. We are raising our doctors and lawyers, our future pizza makers of our community, and who's taking care of them?
The Douglas County Child Care Coalition did a supply and demand analysis and found that we assumed about 1/3 of our population was lacking childcare. And from the 0 to 2 age bracket, we were missing about 500 slots. And 5 and above, so that school age group was several hundred.
So the lack of childcare in Douglas County is absolutely affecting the healthcare workforce. So I'm a part of that. I'm a good indicator of somebody who left and won't go back to the bedside because there's nobody to watch my children for that amount of time. So I accepted this job where, to be perfectly candid, I make 40% less than I do at the bedside. My salary is much lower. However, a huge benefit for me was the fact that they could get into that school. And I don't get a stipend for their tuition. I get nothing else but the fact that I knew they could go there. And for me, when I heard that that was something that UCC provided and I had this job offer on the table, I equated it to having stock options in a company.
So we lost one of the resident physicians. Her and her husband wanted to stay in the area. She had triplets, and the place that she ended up going, they had on-site daycare, the clinic. You know, it was just a problem, and she said, I gotta go, and I understand.
Employers in Douglas County can play a role in helping unlock our child care dilemma by participating in organizations like the Douglas County Child Care Coalition. provide your perspective on what childcare challenges your business has and what potential solutions you can bring to the table. There is a tremendous amount of talent sitting in Douglas County right now, not in the workforce because they're trying to answer that childcare challenge. And every person in charge of hiring, every leader of all the places where you can go to work, they're all lamenting the shortage of qualified employees and applicants for the positions they have open, and they all have openings, it seems.
So we have a lack of childcare slots in Douglas County for many reasons. One of them is infrastructure. It's really hard to find a building or build a building that meets licensing. So the state of Oregon runs licensing for centers to abide by certain standards. And so it's very expensive. It's very hard to remodel a building to meet those requirements. So the infrastructure is step one. Step two would be, say you get past that point and you're able to run a facility, then we're talking again about licensing and the regulations of how many kids you can have per square foot, and then ratio. So depending on the age, so an infant room would be able to have 1 adult to 4 children. Once they turn 2, you can have 5 kids for 1 adult. And then once they turn 3, you can have 10 children to 1 adult.
Childcare isn't just a parent's need to, take a child somewhere where they go grocery shop. Childcare is so that people can keep working. They can have a career outside and be able to fulfill themselves in a different way, which then in turn helps the employer. It helps the community. It helps all things. And so it's not just a parent problem. It's not just an employer problem. It's not just any one thing's problem. We all need to figure it out together so that way not only is the parent able to work, the employer is able to have an employee, the community gets sustained economically because you're spending the money in the community, but we need to make sure that it all makes sense and that we all share in this. We're not the school district. We don't get taxpayer dollars. We don't get that. We're a not-for-profit. So we're looking at every resource we can possibly find to keep these things going. And it takes a community to help us sometimes.
So home-based childcare in Douglas County is a big part of our need in Douglas County for childcare. Childcare in a home-based setting allows for that flexibility for families that are working odd hour, weekend, evening care. So it's a big part of what's here, and it's the lion's share of providers in our county. A lot of folks go into this work because they're looking for childcare themselves, and so sometimes they stumble into it for that and find it's a passion of theirs, and they keep working at it and build their business off of it. I heard the phrase once that childcare has been built on the backs of underpaid women, and I'd say from what I can see that continues to be true.
We're at our certified center that we're in the process of opening. It's an old church. It's the oldest church in our community, originally built in 1890, and we're in the process of renovating it into a new child care center.
Mrs. Rulli came to me and asked about, she did a great presentation, talked about what she needed the money for and the families that it would affect and what the ultimate goal was to do there. I told her, I said, it's a lot of money, and I said, let's go ahead and move forward with this and see what we can do. But I said, a lot of this money comes at the end of the session in Christmas tree bills. And I said, the odds are we may get some, but not likely that we're going to get it all. Ways and Means came to us and said, you have this much money, here's your priority projects, what can you do? And she was one of my highest priority projects, and I was very happy for her. And it's great for the community and great for the future of our community.
When we're looking at the financial pieces of how to open a child care center and also how to keep it running successfully and sustainably, you really have to look at a lot of pieces. Childcare isn't affordable for families, and the numbers don't work out that we can just open our doors and expect parents to be able to pay tuition that equals to long-term successful sustainability of a program. Also, families in our community and our programs rely heavily on state subsidized programs like ERDC, which really help keep programs going. Without access to assistance, parents' tuition rates rival a mortgage payment, especially if you have more than one child that you need to access childcare.
Childcare is fundamental. Like if you want to have a workforce that's coming in, they're able to do their job and they're happy to be there and so on, you want a community to draw that kind of folks, you've got to think about this daycare issue. You can't just say, well, it's someone else's problem.
It doesn't really matter what service you need in Douglas County. Childcare and our workforce are directly tied to it. And when we don't have childcare, we don't have those services that people need.
It takes a community to figure this problem out together.
We're very excited. We got across the county. We got a lot of different industries involved and different folks, and it was just great to see. And I think it tells a great story about the challenge not only Douglas County has, but as we know, because we've been working with other regions across the state, everybody's having it. But people are loving ours and wanting to now recreate it for their own region. So it's also very exciting to have Douglas County have done something that the state's looking at once again, because I think we model a lot of good things. And so we're just excited. We're getting it out there, and then we're going to be pushing our United Way campaign, because if we get more money, we can help with those infrastructure things. If it's cans of paint they need, or we just got a request for a new site that's opening down down the street on Diamond Lake. She wants a lot of things. We don't have that need to give her, but we're going to try to help her write a grant, to get that and see how we can help her. So great work being done by the coalition. Excellent.
That video is spectacular. Thank you.
Thank you.
I learned a lot, and I thought I knew a lot. So you did a really good job.
Yeah. Not only was the content good, but the videography and editing was very good. Who shot that and edited that for you?
It's McFarland Productions.
Okay. Yeah, it's very good. It looks very good.
Yes, they did a nice job, and they kept it within our budget because we said we only have this much money, and they really helped. I think they probably did some more in kind for us as well, because I think they believe in the message too. So that's very nice.
I really like the graphic comparing it to college tuition.
Yes.
Good.
So I'm curious how it got to the governor's office.
One of the folks in the video who's from Cobb Preschool is a pretty big advocate, and she brought it up there and talked about the coalition with them and showed the video, and so she's out there. She's a go-getter, really representing things, obviously for her program, but on behalf of our county as well, since she's gotten involved with the coalition.
Any other questions for Julie? All right, thank you so much. Really well done. Consent agenda, I will entertain motions to accept the consent agenda.
Seconded.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Policy adoption. Yeah, it's part of our consent agenda. Superintendent's report.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you all. It's a lovely May spring day. I have a few things to add tonight that have happened over the past week. I did want to note that the DC Together event that happened last week went really well. I was with Tom at OADSC conference, but we had Julie there and another one of our staff members there to present some data. And folks, it's very exciting to have community say we want to wrap ourselves around a issue that is centered in schools. Regular attendance, no one else is tracking that data. So super excited. We're meeting right now to see what's the next steps. There's a lot of good effort happening there, and we'll keep moving forward. A quick school-based mental health grant update with the federal government through the U.S. Department of Education. So just to recount, we received a letter notifying us of the discontinuation of the grant. So we are in the process of writing a letter for reconsideration of that decision. We're working with districts and community partners for letters of support, and we'll get that submitted hopefully next week and see what happens. In the meantime, ultimately, this just moves our timeline up 6 months. And we had already begun to think about what it would look like in September of 26. So now we're asking, how do we do that by January of 26? And so I've connected with some community partners, and I, in this week, feeling lots of hope that we can find a way to keep these school-based mental health services available. And it also will allow us to support districts with more than day-to-day behavioral health things. So when a child dysregulates during math, that we can put our energy into supporting that classroom, that school, that teacher, and the family what they need to help that kid quickly recover and get back to learning. So, so I have, I'm feeling optimism, and we are taking all the steps we possibly can, and we'll see what happens from there. So, sure.
Is there anything that you would like us to do?
So right now, all we can do is write a letter, and we're getting some support with writing that letter. And then we're reaching out to community partners. So, yeah, I'm just fighting her board right now. So it is $1.4 million, what 6 months of funding was for that grant. So, and so we also have Plan B if they decide to not award or appeal. We'll figure out how to utilize those fundings, those funds. So, as I said, Tom, Amy, and I were at OAPSD last week. It was a great conference. A few things were shared that I just want to share with the entire board. We learned more about the accountability bill, which will impact OT school districts and ESDs. It'll impact ESDs through our Division 24 ORS. So school districts have 22. We are 24. And then they're also looking at changing accountability for school districts around growth targets and putting a system in place to respond to that. What we know is it will happen. What we know is that our advocacy folks are working really hard to make sure that what is done what's best for kids. So this will, likely pass, and then it will move into rulemaking, and that's where it'll be really critical to have voice and shared about whatever the power of those rules land. So part of it, if a district isn't meeting their growth targets, and we know what the targets will likely be, but we don't know, is it 1, is it 8, is it by how much? Not all of that would happen in rulemaking. That there would be coaching, and that's where they're looking for support, and that's where we could possibly play a role in supporting our school districts with that. The biggest challenge is, and this is, I think, about 6 years away, is that if districts continue to not make progress, the state would hold 25% of their funds or direct how they should spend those. It brings up all sorts of fun stuff about CBAs and those sorts of things. So there's a lot of time between now and then, so we'll kind of see how that lands and plays out. The other thing at PACE, just to make you guys aware, or the conference, and Holly, I'm sure, is more versed in this than I am, but they, due to the number of concerns and issues around sexual misconduct they are pulling that out of our general PACE, who's our insurer, our general liability, and it'll be an add-on. And you have to go through a series of questions in order to get that. And so this is, depending on how you answer those questions, you may be denied for a year, and then you have to get the things in place for that. So we are going through that process, and then there's certain, I think it's up to 10 million, but there's certain amounts that we can apply for. So I just wanted to alert you that.
It sounds like a rider on your insurance. So is there a test for it? Do we have any idea what the scoring guide would be? Is it policy based, practice based?
Yeah, so it's like have we done all the trainings? It's all personnel, all of those sorts of things. So yeah, so I assume one of these two wonderful folks is answering those questions, or Veronica is. Answering those questions. So we'll update you in June just to let you know whether we are able to get that right, and what we will do if not. So all districts and ESDs are going through that process right now. So just wanted to update you on that new fund that we learned.
Has the ESD had any sexual misconduct reports recently?
Are you asking, have we had any reported?
Misconduct.
Not at the ESD.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
I was just wondering, 10 million is maximum payout for a year, or if it's an incident, or
It's considered.
where is it?
Yeah.
You'll keep us updated on how that's going.
Well, they're very, I talked to the PACE guy, at the conference and my HR conference, and they're very willing. They want us to get that. So they're very willing to come and help us make sure that we get all of that. So I think there's not going to be an issue moving forward. They'll tell us exactly what we need to do.
As long as we have criteria and we know what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we call PACE.
We are following all of the current criteria. So, and then finally, the May forecast came out yesterday, and it's very disappointing. We are so in February, from November to February, the revenue forecast continued to go up by several $100 million. Between February and May, they were anticipating a few hundred more. We are down $800 million.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It means that the 11.3 that we budgeted on is what will be strongly advocated for. We'll have a better breakdown of that budget in the next few weeks. Also, the Student Success Act, which mostly impacts school districts, but ESDs are also recipients of those funds, is down $44 million. So we hope to maintain 11.3, and I will obviously keep you abreast of that issue and if we have to do any changes to our budget. But and that's not even counting any possible impacts from any changes in the from the federal budget that impact state services. So I just wanted to keep you abreast of that issue. And let me find something positive to end on. The family-friendly employer summit was wonderful. It's another thing hosted by the Douglas County Child Care Coalition. It's very focused on employers and little things that we can do. So some of the ideas were, for the first day of school, delay starting your workday for 2 hours so that whether it's kindergarten or seniors, everybody can go get that fun, picture and drop kids off to things like on-site childcare. But I think what was presented was there's 100 things you can do other than on-site childcare that can make things better for working families and for employers. So it was a great conference, and they bring in folks from, I think they're all from Texas.
Two this year were from Texas.
Yes.
And got stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to get it, but one made it, one did it.
Yeah, so as you know, getting west is very hard, especially with time changes, but it was just great. The employers all over.
Do you have like, conference materials?
Yes, I can read those. I think one of the challenges we have with the Business Champions for Kids is the engagement with employers. It's up and down based on what's happening for those employers themselves and their own businesses. So it is hard. And then in our county, a lot of employers are not your private sector.
Right.
And so we have those folks at the table who are looking to get creative as well. It is really interesting to hear what people are doing nationally. And the team has done a great job through our connection with the Best Place for Working Parents in getting connections. We've had somebody from Maine and somebody from Maryland at our monthly, our quarterly roundtables too. And so I think employers are enjoying getting to hear different creative ideas.
And I will conclude with that.
Any other questions for Annalisa? All right. Julie.
A couple of things we saw already from my update, which is great, but one of the things I did a little different this time is really talk about all the grants and contracts were awarded. Much of the early learning programs are run on foundation grants. And even since I wrote this and submitted it 2 weeks ago, I guess, we've received 2 more grants. So we're out there doing that hard work, looking for those collaboration opportunities. And the group just is in there doing the work. One thing I mentioned earlier about us being kind of with the home visiting system coordination work, we were being asked to sit on, that's now going statewide from the pilot the Ford family did in 3 regions. And the work we did here in Douglas County is a model for many. And our person, who is the home visiting system coordinator, she's sitting on state groups and helping other regions get up and running. So it's just great to see that recognition. But any questions on anything else there?
All right, thank you, Julie. Holly, HR update.
Yes. So, you will see that in my report, I'm talking about the OED rates. And so again, echoing that positive information, we've heard that, that they're going to be increased, which we generally know that happens, but we've heard it's going to be probably in the deductions and out of the max, which isn't good. And so the 19th, I have a meeting with them. So they're doing individual meetings this year, which tells me that it's probably not going to be the greatest news. So I'll be interested to hear and be able to report back what we find out. So as we're trying to do negotiations this time of year with reduction of funding, that's just another component that adds to those type of conversations. However, on that note, with negotiations, I've done a couple. We completed one in 2 hours, which are the negotiations. People are, I'm very pleased that districts are recognizing the state of funding that districts are facing. And so there isn't that really tough conversations at the table like I would expect. They're really just recognizing and agreeing to a lower percentage where we want it to be 8% across the state and higher. And now we're there's 2 different ones that have now completed 2%. And so, and ratified. So that's nice that it seems like the employees are recognizing the state of federal government. Evaluation documents, we're updating. It's been a while since we've updated. So it's a lot of fun. It's a process, and we'll be presenting them to you when we get those completed. And then again, back to the negative pieces is just going through those ripple effects of the reduction of funding that's taking place. And then HR is just keeping up with all the districts on the openings that occur, around the state this time around year with people getting positions other places. And so we're trying to fill those holes, keep up on that, get the good quality people in those positions and assist in those areas. So
August rolls around real fast.
oh my goodness, it's just it's a ripple effect going on right now. It's a very scurry is what happens. But yeah. So any and then I will also say, Biz for Kids, the family friendly summit, I was able to attend part of the day. I had negotiations the other part, and I won a prize.
That's good.
Yes, I got it, thank you. But it was fascinating. I mean, I could just echo what these two said. It was amazing. It was so well put together and just, I learned so much. So not just this video was very good, but just talking to the different people in the, in childcare in this county, it was amazingly, informative, and just, I grew so much in that area, just recognizing the need. So thank you for that great work. And, any questions? Yes.
I've got a tricky subject to bring up. Do we have in our files, employment records, what people's immigration status is? We do have that. Do we have anybody that is very worried about their?
Not that it's crossed my desk.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, if it crosses yours,
Yeah.
tell her to call us,
Yeah.
and we'll do everything we can to support her here. But if the no problem seems like it's going to rise, we don't need to get a task force together.
No, but we are, we're very empathetic to anybody that, or is even connected. So it's not just an employee, but an employee that's connected to somebody. That's just a lot of emotion, and fear. And so we're just very empathetic to that, and have opened our doors really well to ask if anybody has concerns. Let us know. We have services like the EAP that we can point people to if they do need some additional assistance. But yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. That's a huge concern as well.
We are serving folks and I hear a lot from the IDCSE program, concerns from families. I think it has kind of settled down, but there was a lot of talk around that initially.
And fear.
Yeah, it's hard to people coming into school when they're afraid that they're going to get grabbed. It's pretty straightforward.
I have been an illegal in 2 different countries for an extended period of time. It's no fun.
Was that, I was going to say Alabama.
Peruvian countries out there.
Peruvian. Wow. All right. Any further questions, Rob? Thank you, Holly. Minutes, fiscal overview.
Good evening. Just report that it's just the end of a biennium, end of a fiscal year. Things are crazy. We have lots of just preparing the staff for that closure. We've had some great conversations with our support staff and our administrators regarding, we have a checklist for them for end of year, and that's been well received. And it's a checklist we've had, but we've really worked on more education this year and just really going through the checklist. So everybody's kind of on the same page. So that's been great, well receptive. So just starting down that path, and we've got our third quarter grants in and have been claimed. We're waiting for payments to come back, but Tisha's been working really closely with administrators as well, giving them their grant balances, what they've got left to spend, that kind of thing. So just the typical end of year stuff. In regards to the financials, nothing really wild or startling. Watching the state school fund estimates as they come out with the forecast that came out yesterday. So I'm anxious to see what our next state school fund, which will probably be out in June, just to see how that's going to compare to what we budgeted. We did budget at the 2.8 million based on the 11.3. So we did have an adjustment come through from the 23-24 fiscal year. That was early on as when I came back here and started this role. And some of that was because the estimate of our property taxes was very low, lower than what was coming in, and so that affects things. I now have that up to where we're at and what we're getting. So I'm hopeful that we won't have as, large of, adjustments in the future fiscal years. So, just watching that, but, yeah, revenues, holding steady. We'll have, they get a little bit more property tax this week even, so, working through, our cost centers and our other funds. Again, we'll be closing grants and whatnot, so, again, nothing significant, jumping out. We're within our appropriations at this present moment, but I'm watching it very closely, literally like week to week, because it can change. So if for some reason we do have any concerns with appropriations, I will bring a resolution next month. But at this present moment, we're close, we're tight, but we're doing okay. So
I have kind of a dumb question about 201. Because we have roughly $800,000 registered for public grants. And so my understanding is that's money that we spent but not paid. Is that my understanding?
on fund, the fund 201 federal grant page. Yeah, so we have our year-to-date expenditures, we have our encumbrances. Remember, federal grants are reimbursed, so we have to spend and then we have to wait to get our money back.
Okay.
Yeah. As with honestly, most grants except for philanthropic, where we get the money up front.
Okay.
But yeah, so the fund 201 will always look until we short up. Yeah, and get all the money coming in. So that's another area like our EI, is, partially federal. That's where we can get into districts, ESDs can get into cash flow issues is because of some of the, and many of our state grants are the same way, they're reimbursed. So we spend and then we do, here we do quarterly claims. So we spend for 3 months and then we, and so the fourth month. And so it can be up to 5 months or more before, and that's assuming we have a contract. So that's where those cash flow issues come in. So it's something that we're, Tish is very diligent about getting those done as soon as the quarter is over, so we can get that. Any other questions?
I got one. The OEA, OEIO, Oregon Education. Are they making any changes to the method of reporting anytime soon? I know you've been through at least 2 or 3 changes in the report structure.
Yeah, and
Any ideas?
Yeah, and I think with the transparency bill and those things, we've actually had opportunity to meet with ODE and the transparency folks. They had reached out to me and I pulled Tish in, and they asked a lot of questions about what you like about our reports and what you don't like about our reports and what's difficult and what's, and so it really felt good to feel like we had a voice in that of the difficulties of grant reporting and what they're wanting from us and the fact that like we've got the PBAM or the accounting manual and a lot of the reports coming in, Tish said, are not aligning with this. They're wanting us to use this, but the reports aren't. And so there's a lot of disconnect there. And they kind of went, oh, we didn't know that. So
at least they're finding out.
yeah, so it was really, it really felt good that they were asking, and I know they went, around the state, but it felt good. And I know that they actually have asked Tish for like one of her reports that she uses, and to dive more deeper into how she pulls those numbers and whatnot. So
Yeah, the report, the challenge with reporting, has been vocalized very loudly by 197 districts and 19 ESUs. And what was shared with us by the director of ODE is that they are looking at the reporting structure, and hopefully we will see some revisions coming soon. It's always whether or not we will like those revisions. Be careful what you ask for sometimes.
The old, change is good for you.
Hope springs eternal, at least they're asking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they make good changes when they ask good questions. We'll see.
Yeah, Dennis, I'm concerned about the cash flows. Is this different than a typical year? Are we experiencing things that we haven't experienced before? How are we going to handle the cash flow issue?
The cash flow is another area that ESD, and I can tell you every ESD has reached out to the state, especially with the EI, ECSC, but a lot of different grants. So I know that it's in deep conversation about making some changes there so that we're not waiting 6 months, to get the contracts so that we can claim money. So I do believe they are working on that. I haven't heard anything specific. But yes, it's been very vocalized, very loudly, very strongly. So I do anticipate that we will see some change there.
I remember we talked about this year after OAESD. You had the ESDs ready to sue the state over their lack of compensating us in a reasonable amount of time. So this is not new, and it's something they need to fix because the districts are all on the hook and the ESDs are all on the hook. The state needs to get their act together, quite frankly. So I think if anything, we're not worse off than we were last year.
We are worse off or not worse off?
What's that?
We are worse off than last year or not as worse?
We're not.
Okay.
What I'm saying is this is an ongoing issue, and I think you heard me talking about it last year.
I do, yeah.
And it's I think if anything, it's kind of stabilized a little this year, but.
Okay, yeah, I'm amazed it hasn't been handled to this day,
Yeah, so year 2 of a biennium is always, because we have contracts in place, it's always the first year of the biennium. So I've spent a lot of time in meetings this year with ODE, discussing the EICSE grant. For us, that's what, 24 million a year? And so when you're not paid for services rendered for 6 months, it's that's a cash flow issue.
Oh, yeah.
So it takes through a lot of time. There is a proposal on the docket to change some behaviors there, and so I'm hopeful. We did spend a lot of time. It's challenging because it's ODE, it's DAS, and it's DOJ, and then there's ORSs, and they've explained how it's all intertwined to each other. But I know ODE is committed to doing their part to make this better, and working with their partners. So I sit here with hope. Talk to me in 6 months.
We'll see. But I just want to clarify, Tom, it's not worse now. This is
Okay. Okay, all right.
All that Alicia has done to voice for us, and because it's we're going into the first year again, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom, what exacerbated the issue is, because we've had the EICSE contract for a really long time, but over the course of the last 3 bienniums, the legislature has added additional grant aids, SIA, we've added the Early Learning Hub, lots of more, I can't name them all right now. And so we, our state school fund just comes, to us, but these we have to spend and then seek reimbursement for. And so we're just carrying more because of these wonderful programs we can offer kids and students, but it does change our financial position a little bit, so.
Yeah. But we'll be able to do payroll and everything though, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I mean, I just need to ask these questions because I want to understand how deep this issue is.
Yeah.
You got your friend with you.
And we'll keep you abreast of the first year of the biennium. We'll know pretty quickly whether that, it's supposed to shift, I think, to, part of our payment will be a disbursement, meaning we get money. It's actually how the contract is written anyways. We get money, to get the year started, and then it's reimbursement after that. So, Venice should know by August or September.
Okay,
I'll update you in September of that, because I think we'll know more then.
okay,
Well,
good. Thank you.
It was August 1, I think that
Yeah.
email said, I think we just had to deliver to them today.
Yep.
It does say August 1,
Yep. So
I'm hopeful they're gonna follow through with what they put in those emails. So I know they've heard a lot.
yeah, I
Yeah, they have a lot. And it's not us, I mean, it's everybody. We just have a pretty huge share of the southern part of the state. We have all of it.
Yeah.
Dennis, can I add one more thing?
Yes.
On your time? You present usually the most complicated and difficult part at any meeting, and I've never experienced a hiccup where I had to say, what are you talking about? It's always been very straightforward, and every time. I mean, once I asked something so stupid you couldn't answer it, but normally every question is answered to.
Yeah.
Every time.
And the quality of the reports is excellent. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
That's not just what we're looking
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You get all that, Brian?
I did.
for. All right, let us move on to information items.
So we have policy, the first reading. So the policy committee met ahead of this meeting and present these policies to you with no recommended revision. Recommend that to you with no revisions.
Any questions about policies? A lot of stuff we're doing to keep up. Integrated application for Mount Nebo.
Yes, Amy Rose, our Director of Ed Services, is here to present the Mount Nebo student investment or integrated guidance application.
And can I, just before we go, on the action item that says vote on ODE integrated plan, that is the application for Mount Nebo. So let's change that language so it says vote on ODE application for Mount Nebo, just like we have prior. Okay, sorry.
Well, speaking of complicated reporting. So 2 years ago, I presented to you on this same subject. It looks like it's the last 2 pages of your packet. You'll remember that ODE responded to the massive amount of reporting, merged them into the integrated plan. And I'm here, as required by statute, to present to the board Mount Nebo, which is our JDEP program, their plan. So the community engagement that the Mount Nebo team engaged in, they conducted interviews and surveys with both students and detention center correctional officers, excuse me. They discovered that most students reported feeling respected and supported within the program, so that's wonderful. Only 65% of the students reported feeling motivated to continue school. Identifying motivation as an area for improvement. And of course, these are our most vulnerable, unique circumstance.
These are incarcerated kids, so
Yes.
let's be clear about that.
Yes.
About kids who are in jail.
Absolutely. Correctional officers noted the program is moving in a positive direction. Using these funds, they made some changes in the last couple of years that have been very positive. And when we're talking about the correctional officers, those are not ESD employees. So these are outside officers saying that this is moving in the right direction. They also identified transitional skills and support as a priority area of need. And so Mount Nebo is eligible for 2 of the 6 funds. One is HSS, formerly Measure 98, now called High School Success, funds specifically for exactly what's highlighted here, motivating students, connecting them to what are you going to do after this? What kind of job are you going to have? It's a very small pot of money for HSS. And then, what we've done is we've broken them out by year for you. Now, the SIA is a bigger chunk of change, and that was because of the statute that was passed a few years ago. So this budget was created based on the needs assessment process and the community engagement. If you look at the last page, the outcomes and strategies are identified, and all of the activities related to those are identified, and how they're going to spend their money down to the penny. As you'll see, a big portion of this is salary for a transition specialist, and that's one of those positive changes they've made that's been incredible for those kids. They are going to be adopting a new credit recovery online learning platform, so those students can be working on their credits while they're incarcerated. They're also purchasing some benchmark assessments so they know where those kids are at and can then, give them education based on where they're at. Supplies and equipment for those life skills classes, those CTE, career technical education. And then lastly, that one really lays out, it's for CTE classes. Any questions about this budget? Yes, I have
So I just have a question because we're talking about detention.
Yes.
So most kids aren't in detention very long. So could you help me understand more what the CTE and transition stuff is? Like, is awesome and I support all of it. I'm just I don't really understand what that means because I don't know about education.
Absolutely. So one of the things that they're doing is virtual reality CTE for these kids. And they also have a driving simulator so that students are then able to look into getting their permit, getting their license, thinking about their future. So the virtual reality, I don't have the information on what specific courses of employment that they are interested in, but these VR systems do allow them to experience that without leaving the detention center and without, some of the supplies for CTE would not be allowable in this circumstance. So thank God for technology and so the kids do take like a online survey to see where their interests might be based on what they're into, and then they get that opportunity virtually.
Wasn't one of the simulations of welding?
Yeah.
Yes, I know that welding is for sure very popular.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what we're finding is, even with a short stay, we can build efficacy with kids. They're surrounded by adults who care for them. And so I think what the staff is doing, with usually the less than 30 days they have.
Used to be we had kids a lot longer, and thankfully we're not having kids as long as we used to. We had kids doing year-long stays, and it was not okay. Took a lot of work to fix that. So.
And just to note that transition specialist, one of their roles is to get them connected back into their home district.
That was what I was wondering because you disenroll when you're in detention.
Yes, and they enroll in this program, but then that person, and that was something that was identified a few years ago when we first started this process, that was tricky. And so having this person, that's what they do, means kids don't fall through the cracks.
Right.
And then their home districts get the information on, and here's what they've been working on. Here's what we've discovered they're interested in.
Okay.
So that is really key to helping these kids succeed.
Thank you.
Amy, can you say, or do you know what the average stay is at the center? The length of time?
I don't have that information. I'm presenting because I'm still the integrated guidance liaison here in our county. And so I help them support this work, but we could certainly get you that information. Angela Karen, the director of special ed, she manages this program.
And it's gonna fluctuate a lot because that's determined by the course.
Yeah, I can tell you it's probably under 15 days because there's a huge emphasis and you have to go to court every 10 days. And Douglas County no longer runs as many they used to run in custody programs in a different way than they do now. So used to be you'd have 60 or 90 day stays but the programming has changed. So it's going to be 5 to 15 days probably on average.
Yeah.
If you are not charged, there are some kids who are charged with very serious crimes, they will spend a year or two there.
Unless they transition, then they put them all in.
I'm just trying to figure out how to do all these things in that short amount of time. That seems like the transition specialist is the most valuable of all the things in your budget here.
Yep. Trying to get an IEP implemented in 2 weeks is pretty impossible. But
But trying to get information back to the school and help kids transition is a different thing.
I agree. I think it's a great idea. Definitely needed.
Mike, is that a program that you used to run?
Yep, I ran that program for 2 years for Roseburg. Glad to see the numbers are coming down. We had some really difficult challenges back then, and we did have kids who probably, you try to keep kids out of youth authority because once they go there, they're probably going to be there forever, one way or another. So it was not uncommon back in the day for us to have kids in there way too long. So I'm really glad to hear that that's improved. And I agree, the transition specialist is the key because they're not going to be there very long. Let's get them reintegrated and interested.
And we do have other money besides this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that covers the personnel and that. So this is not the only money for our JDF program.
Right. All right. Any questions for Amy? Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time.
All right, action items.
So it's now in front of you to vote on this.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we vote to accept the ODE integrated plan.
All right. Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All right, for the good of the order.
For the good of the order, first time in 24 years, I have an opponent in my election, and if I just happen to lose this time, I want to say goodbye to everybody here in case I don't get a chance to do something.
You can always come and visit us in June.
You can come and serve anytime you want.
I'll sit in the back. I told Annalisa, a board member emeritus who sits in the back and gets to answer that question. What did you guys do 20 years ago about the same issue?
Institutional memory.
Gather around, children, let me tell you the tale. Can't do that.
Announcements, end of the year barbecue Jackson will be June 6th. It's our.
I was thinking it was Jackson Street.
No, Jackson County and all those folks in the further southern lands. And the next board meeting is June 12th, right here.
Just a reminder, that's the second week instead of the third week.
It is June 12th.
And then we like that from now on. Okay, just
Yeah.
that one, just for our budget.
And end of the year barbecue, and for reports, June 13th, 1 to 3:30, be there or be square. Any other business? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion in a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you all.
Enjoy a beautiful spring. We will see you next month.
Thank you.
So tell me about.